Good evening, I'm Shane Jones. Leading the news at 7. Some Barbadians will lose their jobs as government seeks to put the island back on a path of economic recovery. The simple but painful admission from Special Advisor to Government, Professor Avinash Prasad. He says there is no easy route to recover from the challenges facing Barbados. The island now has a debt to GDP ratio of 175%, the third highest in the world. Professor Prasad says we must embark on a tough program to match the tough situation. He was speaking during a media conference at government headquarters.
We have tried the alternatives. We've tried the wait-and-see approach. We've tried the muddle-through model. We've tried the desperately shuffling the pack of cards approach. We've tried, in the final bit, the final fiction, to print money to pay for our bills. And that's why we are here today in this day of reckoning.
While it has been suggested in some quarters that government should send home about 4,000 workers, Mr. Prasad says they will not be doing that, as it will only lead to a broken society.
That may solve one problem, but only by creating many others. You know, the economic variables of inflation and deficit and debt, they're actually just symptoms of broken societies. And if we were to send home 4,000 workers, we would break our society. And we cannot get to the road of success by breaking the society. That is a road to strife. It's not the road to success.
Well, Barbadians could determine the future of several state-owned enterprises. More than 5,000 Barbadians responded to an online survey on how government should go about with dealing with the entities, many of which are saddled with millions of dollars in debt. Among the suggestions is to merge entities which do similar work, like the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation and the Government Information Service, and privatize others which could be more lucrative. Senior Technical Advisor with the International Monetary Fund, Dr. Kevin Greenidge, is working with the Barbados government. The details of the survey are contained in the Barbados Economic Recovery and Transformation, or BERT, program. On the privatization end, Dr. Greenidge used the Transport Board and Sanitation Service Authority as examples.
The process can involve helping drivers and their teams to own buses and also sanitation, own the oil trucks, bid for work from government, and commit to some minimum standard of public service. And we also look at their user fees, move to mobile payment, reduce the accounting needs in Transport Board, and as I said again, through some sort of individual workers setting up there as private companies to provide service, you can see providing for cleaning, for securities, and things like that.
Dr. Greenidge, who is a member of government's economic team, says that not only state-owned entities will be targeted, as central government will be as well. He says there are some categories of jobs that are simply not necessary in modern Barbados.
For example, stenotypist. This is something not in the digital age, it's not something you do. So you have to find a way to redefine and reabsorb those other places. And so going through every post, every department, temporary, and looking for efficiency gains. Like I say, it's not hitting a number. We're trying to hit a number because we want to meet our bottom line target reset. But even if there wasn't a target to meet, the idea is to restructure, to make the public sector, entire public sector, fit for purpose, to go where we want to go. We can't go where we are now and be efficient.
Barbados will not end up like Jamaica, which has been under structural adjustment programs with the International Monetary Fund for decades. Director of Finance and Economic Affairs Ian Carrington says government's economic team has carefully examined what is needed to get Barbados out of the serious economic hole it is in. He says they are looking to restructure and adjust the economy in such a way that isn't a short-term fix.
This program, therefore, is one that looks to fix the fundamental problem that we face, and the fundamental problem that we face is a problem in which our economy is not fit for purpose, our government is not fit for purpose, and our structures are not 21st century structures. So we could go the route that has been suggested, take the acts as you would like, cut off 4,000 people and say, we have fixed it. But that's essentially chopping off a leg off an overweight person and say that you have fixed them. They still got the diabetes, they still got the hypertension. You have to fix the fundamental underlying problem. And that is what we are doing, fixing the fundamental underlying problem.
Mr. Carrington says government will ensure that its restructuring plan is done in a phased manner.
Dealing with what we can accomplish within the first 6 months, what we can accomplish within the next 12 months, but we are not waiting to tackle the issues that needs to be addressed in 12 months' time by starting in 12 months' time. We are starting with those now. It is not going to be a painless exercise. So if we want to get out of this and expect that there will be no pain, we will be fooling ourselves. And the reason we are here today is essentially to say to Barbados in a very candid and frank manner, this is the situation that we find ourselves in. We have done the diagnosis. These are the things that we need to do to fix it. And this is the time period over which we intend to fix it.
Mr. Carrington adds that government will not be cutting back on critical sectors like health and education. Government has an obligation to pay the more than $480 million owed in income tax refunds. This is according to Central Bank Governor Cleviston Haynes. Prime Minister Mia Motley has already indicated that the government will take about 2 years to pay out that level of refunds. Governor Haynes says as government prepares to enter an IMF program, it will be stipulated that those arrears must be eliminated.
The fundamentals remain the same whether you're in or outside of a program, and that is your ability to service our expenditures is dependent on the availability of financing. That is why you will see in the program that a key element of the program actually is for us to have fiscal surpluses, which will be complemented by the drawings that we get from, let's say, the IDB and the CDB. And that is what is going to help to finance the reduction in arrears. But clearly you cannot reduce the arrears faster than you have available financing. And that is a critical element.
The new heads of Barbados overseas missions have been named. Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Senator Dr. Jerome Walcott, made the announcement earlier today. Senator Walcott says those chosen each bring to their post a diverse set of skills and experiences, before reminding them that everything they do will reflect on Barbados. He also revealed that while most of the overseas-based envoys will take up their posts in early October, one has already begun her duties.
Miss Elizabeth Thompson yesterday presented her credentials to the Secretary General of the United Nations as Barbados' permanent representative to that body. And today you've joined me here, and I'll just go through the names. Dame Billy Miller, an ambassador at large. Mr. David Comminsong, who is not here, who's asked to be excused. Mr. Reginald Farley, High Commissioner Designate to Canada. Mr. Chad Blackman, the permanent representative designate to the World Trade Organization and the United Nations office at Geneva. Mr. Oral Holder, the Consul General designate at New York. Mr. Nevald Greenwich, Consul General designate at Miami. Ms. Sonia Marvel Carter, Consul General designate at Toronto, and Reverend Charles Morris, Deputy High Commissioner designate at London.
Milton Innes has also been named as a nominee for a diplomatic posting. However, his appointment process is incomplete. A former senior Barbados Defense Force official says international organized crime is a problem the island cannot combat alone. Given its complexity, retired Commander Wilbert Curtin sees cooperation as vital in the fight.
It's a reality that no single country or no single law enforcement agency can cope alone with the threat which is presented by international organized crime. In this regard, the importance of joint training cannot be overstated, since it provides a forum where networking among law enforcement agencies officers develop. However, significant numbers of officers have been trained, and there'll be further training in the future.
Mr. Curtin was the featured speaker at the closing ceremony for the RSS Training Institute's Maritime Operations and Planning course. He says major security threats for small island states come from the sea. He adds law enforcement response must be swift as the modality of transnational organized crime is changing.
It has become a practical necessity for existing maritime and border security strategies to move beyond the traditional concept. Transnational organized crime is a highly skilled operation which necessitates that maritime law enforcement response must be swift, it must be decisive, and it must be effective. Similarly, integrated law enforcement maritime operations required a proactive and robust postures, as the fight against the enemy is against the enemy who has flexibility, the control of time, the control of money, and the easy access to modern technology.
Well, in just a few short months, Barbados will once again be home to a fully functioning train. It's expected to attract hundreds of visitors and locals daily to the quiet parish of St. Andrew. Sharika Griffith has that story.
After a more than 80-year hiatus, the sight of a powerful locomotive travelling through the countryside will once again be the norm. But unlike the now defunct Barbados Railway, the St. Nicholas Abbey Heritage Railway will operate solely in St. Andrew. Director of Abbey Holdings Inc. Larry Warren says it's an attempt to broaden the visitor base at St. Nicholas Abbey.
What happens with a heritage attraction, there's only a certain group of people that are really passionately interested in it, and they tend to be more mature, and we wanted to see more like a family experience, you know, that could be a broad cross-section of family life, you know, from children to grandparents.
According to Mr. Warren, the $8 million project represents a significant investment in the local tourism product, something he wants to see more of from the private sector. There are already 2 locomotives on the St. Andrew property, one being used to transport construction materials and a diesel-powered backup. The railway was initially projected to be up and running by Independence Day, but there's been a slight delay.
The restoration of the locomotive is taking longer than expected, so it will not actually arrive here until the 7th of December. We're hoping very much that we can get it out by Christmas and have it operational before Christmas. So the expected opening date is now the opening date, whether you know, whoever opens it will be the 4th of January, and operations will commence on the 7th of January.
Built in Germany in 1914, the main locomotive will be powered by coal in the morning and wood from casuarina trees as the day progresses. The train will consist of 3 open wheelchair-accessible carriages, which will feature pre-recorded narrations in different languages. The hour-long journey will begin with patrons boarding in the train shed for a leisurely ride to the picturesque lookout point at Cherry Tree Hill.
But the other nice, fun thing, particularly for the children, is we will then have to turn the locomotive around, and in so doing we need people to turn it, you know. And so we'll ask for volunteers to help turn the locomotive, which will bypass the carriages and reconnect at the other end for the downward journey.
Between 12 and 16 new jobs will be created upon completion of the railway. To date, the company has received more than 700 applications. Sharika Griffith, CBC News.
The European Union is to assist Barbados with several training cooperation initiatives. First Secretary of the EU delegation to Barbados in the Eastern Caribbean, Luca Pierantoni, says maritime security is among the many challenges for the region.
We are aware that security is not just a question of enforcement. So there are a number of activities that we are trying to support from the side of the crime prevention and also drug demand reduction as far as drug smuggling is concerned. So we are supporting drug treatment courts, funding youth clubs, supporting awareness-raising activities, and doing everything we can to help CARICOM and the CARICOM countries to make progress with their crime and security strategy. We are also working on cybersecurity, on financial compliance, on asset recovery, and on the criminal justice system, including with RSS, we are, for example, supporting some rehabilitation programs in prisons.
Barbados and the region have been reminded the Caribbean is not immune and is susceptible to chemical emergencies, whether intentional or as a result of natural disasters. To drive the point home, Minister of the Environment and National Beautification, Trevor Prescott, highlighted two recent events. One in the United Kingdom and the other in Malaysia, where on two separate occasions, chemical weapons were used to cause harm to persons. According to Minister Prescott, though the region is not generally traders in chemical weapons, countries need to take into account that the risk of terrorism is ever present.
These threats pose direct and indirect threats to human health and the environment. For example, in Texas last year, where floodwaters caused by Hurricane Harvey resulted in the failure of backup power, which result in a fire at a chemical storage plant. The refrigeration system which was used to keep the volatile chemicals in storage at that required low temperatures lost functionality due to the lack of electricity. Fortunately, it did not result in the loss of lives, which was quite possible.
More Barbadians have been giving up or expressing an interest in giving up their pets. The result has been overcrowding at several shelters across the island. Our Sharika Griffith visited one and filed this report.
The Ark Animal Welfare Society has space for a total of 40 dogs, but it's currently housing 42 dogs and 10 puppies, with a further 9 canines on a waiting list should space become available. The Ark Secretary for the past 20 years, Joe Gamblin, says people give up their pets for a number of reasons, including an inability to continue feeding them. In other cases, she believes some pet owners bite off more than they can chew by failing to spay or neuter their pets.
That is the crux of the matter. When you have an unspayed dog, female, the puppies are going to come, no matter what. And it is far more healthy for the dog to be spayed, and even the males to be neutered because they won't stray and cause a problem in the neighborhoods and that sort of thing.
Since crop over, the Ark has managed to rehome 6 dogs, but it has also taken in 10 more. Ms. Gamblin explains that they're only given to homes where they won't be chained or penned. Pet owners are also encouraged to ensure their animals get preventative medicine.
Give your dog a flea and tick tablet so that it doesn't develop tick fever. Give puppies their vaccines. A vaccine costs about $60 at the most expensive place. And tick fever or parvovirus to treat is at least $300 a time. So the math is right there.
The Ark has a no-kill policy, which means dogs are only euthanized if they're terminally ill. Sharika Griffith, CBC News.
With the peak of the hurricane season on the horizon, National Emergency Management Agency Director Captain Stephen Russell says Bahamians who still have tarpaulin on their roof may only have themselves to blame.
Ultimately, Russell says government and NEMA have worked hard to help people affected by natural disasters over the past few years, but he says not everybody has used the money given to them in the right way. Just 2 weeks out from what he describes as the peak of the hurricane season, NEMA Director Captain Stephen Russell says homeowners in New Providence, Grand Bahama and other islands who still have tarp on their roof may have misused funds given to them to make home repairs.
When you see blue tarps still a year after, from hurricane, or a year and a half after Hurricane Matthew, again, you have to wonder why people still have tarps. The people would have gotten funds, but they've redirected their funds to other things, okay? A lady came from adjacent neighborhood. Her sons took the money and used it for drugs.
Russell was responding to questions concerning an Inter-American Development Bank report that rated the Bahamas' disaster preparedness as low. While Russell says there were positive takeaways from the report, he admitted that it's been a challenging past few years on the disaster preparedness front.
3 years back-to-back major storms. You know, a government is struggling just to catch up. After Hurricane Joaquin and Matthew 2015 and 2016, I saw the data from the Ministry of Works. Some 117 structures, government structures, were impacted as a result of those two storms.
The results of the IDB study, which Russell described as disturbing, show a general progress level of 17.44%, which places the country in the low range of development. Specific areas where the Bahamas' progress was ranked as low were in the areas of general framework of governance for DRM, which received a score of 15%, along with financial protection and post-disaster recovery planning components, which were scored 13 and 12% respectively. The lowest score was achieved by risk identification and knowledge, which stood at just 6%. Russell argued that the financial protection score should be higher.
We have improved in both of those areas. We've qualified for the credit facility through IDB. We have renewed our insurance with the CRIF insurance company. So those elements were not included in the assessment.
The report also criticized utilities regulators for failing to have disaster risk management requirements. Russell says those entities, which don't come under his purview, will have to step their game up.
Trinidad and Tobago is observing its 56th anniversary of political independence from Britain. It included the traditional military parade today and statements from politicians. While President Paula May Weeks noted that independence is a work in progress, she urged citizens to continue ensuring the development of the country. In his message, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley stressed that the anniversary of independence provides citizens with another opportunity to reflect on the meaning of citizenship and the value of its national identity. Guyana has rubbished claims from Venezuela that the United States wants a war with Caracas and is using Georgetown to do so through ExxonMobil.
Carl Greenwich made it clear that Guyana and ExxonMobil have not claimed any land or waters in Venezuela's acknowledged territory. Quote, "We're not trying to rob Venezuela. The piece is dangerous because by being simple, it sounds plausible." End quote. According to the Foreign Affairs Minister, the social media commentary by Gina Rahman seeks to use a Marxist analysis to add credibility to the argument. However, the minister noted that while Marxism is relevant to many social and socio-political issues, in Guyana's context, it may not be applicable in certain circumstances. He also said that it is also relevant to ExxonMobil, because when Guyana's lands were first claimed by Venezuela in 1962, ExxonMobil was not operating here and did not have connections either. Exxon is only here for a limited period, and the minister believes that Venezuela intends to continue its claim whether the oil company is operating here or not. Quote, "The issue here has nothing to do with socialism, the government's commitment to socialism, Exxon's connection with capitalism, but it has to do with national chauvinism." End quote. Minister Greenwich stated further that as soon as this is understood, the confused use of Marxist analysis will end. Guyana's problem with Venezuela is simple, he noted. Quote, "Venezuela has an agreement with Guyana concerning our borders and its borders, and that agreement Venezuela has sought to break since 1962.
The United States Coast Guard says it seized more than $2 million in cocaine and nabbed 4 suspect smugglers in separate incidents in the Caribbean Sea. It said that Caribbean Border Interagency Group law enforcement authorities apprehended 3 suspected smugglers and seized about $1 million in cocaine following the interception of a go-fast vessel off Mona Island, Puerto Rico.